We're going to begin with a question that many of you may have been asking yourselves about the current economy. Is the worst behind us? Fair question. When will we see a downturn, and why? I'm going to divide my explanation into three parts, and I'm going to, you know what, let's do this. I want to go over to the wall so I can do this for you. Let me go over here so I can show you what it is that we're seeing as far as some of the trends go, right? There's a debt burden in our country right now. We told you about this before. It's like no other ever experienced in our nation's history. Household debt is above $14 trillion. That's how much the average American, someone like yourself, may owe, right? So let me try and break this down for you into three key parts that many of you may find, well, relatable. That's why we put this line graph up here for you. And I want to start with auto debt. It's been going up now for about 3 straight years. That's the blue line that you see right there. Look at that line. Look at the trajectory that's taken. You know what this number represents right here? That number represents $1.35 trillion. Now I want you to look at student loans. That's represented by that orange line that you see right there. This is important. It's actually going up now. That one's been going up for more than 10 years. And it's at $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion. Wrap your head around that number. Now,
hey, some of you might remember a show on TV called Northern Exposure where this New York Jewish doctor went to Sicily, Alaska to pay off his student debt. And the state of Alaska has got this guy by the balls and they wouldn't release him. It was a funny episode where through inflation that his student debt incurred greater debt and he had to stay up there in Sicily, Alaska for another year because they got him by the balls and he has to work off his debt. When all these students, they're going to be a slave to the government to be dictated to what they can and cannot do until that debt is paid off, and it will never be paid off.
Now let's add up credit card debt. Same thing taking place right now. Household debt is what we're talking about. It's standing right now at about $1.1 trillion. Now, just to put all of this into perspective, in 2008, our entire economy had a meltdown, right? Banks collapsed because of a mortgage debt of how much? How much was that debt back in 2008? $800 billion. That's less than any one of these, right? Less than the student loan, less than the auto, less than the credit debt individually. So now let's take a look at something else. Let's look at how many Americans are not drawing an income right now. According to Fortune magazine just today, numbers hot off the press that I just checked, the real unemployment in America right now is probably around 16%. That's a big nut, right? May go even higher for a couple of reasons that we can't get into right now.
Well, hey, Mr. Sanchez, I'll get into it for you right now. These figures are all total bullshit. Trump is such a freaking liar. He knows damn well that's not the unemployment rate. RT America is taking stats supplied by the government, and these stats are all a bunch of BS because it is a lot higher, just like the bullshit with the stock market. It's total BS. Now, what they're not counting are what happened to all the people who are living under bridges, what happened to the people that are empty buildings, what happened to all the people in cardboard boxes on the sidewalks. Where are all these people counted? These people are not counted. They're all unemployed and they don't count these people. What they do, if a person has 3 jobs, one person 3 jobs, they count that as 3 jobs. So 3 for 1. Total BS statistics. They're manipulating the statistic to make Trump look good. Just like the freaking stock market is totally false because all this bailout money is going to the stock market people to make the stock market look active. And it's all BS. It's all BS. These stats are not real. I would say the unemployment rate is probably 25 to 30 realistically. And for college graduates, it's always been lately up to about 50%. Also, the ones who are not being counted are the ones who spent too much time on unemployment and they cut their benefits off. These people don't get counted.
But let's compare that to the bust that we experienced in terms of unemployment back in 2008. At its worst, absolute worst, Unemployment back then was around 10%. So what do we have? I'll tell you what we have. We have Americans saddled with record debt, Americans not getting an income. So then why is the economy still chugging along? And why is Wall Street going up? A lot of people happen to be asking right now. It has to do with the fact that the government has been stimulating the economy, the CARES Act, supplementing income, providing bailouts, et cetera. But you know what's an even bigger part of this explanation? It's a word called forbearance. See that word up there? Forbearance. Here's a big nut. Almost 8% of all Americans have gotten permission from their banks, as mandated by the government, to not pay their mortgages. They're not paying. You wonder how they're getting by? They're not having to pay their mortgage. That's their biggest debt. That's $800 billion. $800 billion in unpaid principal. But here's the question. What happens 6 months from now when that government program runs out and they have to either pay it back or at the very least start paying again?
Okay, something else they're not telling you, what is most likely happening, that all this interest accrued during this 6 months break is going to be added to the principal. So your principal loan is going to be increased. What makes you think after 6 months these people can't even pay that off? This is all part of the repossession of all your real property in the United States. This is the damn thing that happened in 2008 and 9. Same damn thing.
So here's what we have right now. Historic debt, historic numbers of people with no income, and forbearance that allows those folks to not pay their bills until 6 months from now. When they have to do what? Suddenly pay their bills. Then what? We're going to drill down on this because we think it's a very important scenario, and because we like to drill down on stories like this to give you context and perspective. Here on The News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it's time to do news again.